She showed up every day with quiet dignity, scrubbing floors and polishing silver while the world barely noticed her. To most, she was invisible, a cleaning lady with no voice, no power, no chance to dream. But when a wealthy billionaire handed her a card with no limits, everything changed. What she chose to do wasn't just unexpected, it revealed a truth about injustice, pride, and resilience that money could never buy. And when the world finally saw her choice, no one could stay silent. The question is, will you? Maria had never asked for much out of life. Every morning before sunrise, she tied her apron, kissed her daughter goodbye, and walked to the mansion where she worked as a cleaner. The house was dazzling, filled with chandeliers and marble floors, but to her it was just another reminder of everything she didn't have. Still, she carried herself with quiet pride, never letting struggle erase her dignity. To her employers, Maria was background noise, present but unseen. They never wondered how far she traveled, how little she earned, or how carefully she stretched every dollar to keep food on the table. But one day, that invisibility would shatter. A test she never expected was waiting for her, and it would expose not only her strength, but also a truth her wealthy boss could no longer ignore. The test seemed simple enough. 4 cleaning ladies, 4 identical black cards. "Buy whatever you want," the billionaire said, his voice smooth but sharp, like it was more of a trap than a gift. Cameras watched from every corner of the luxurious hall, capturing their every move. For the first time, Maria wasn't invisible. She was on display. At first, she thought it was a joke. People like her didn't hold cards with no limits. For years, she had counted coins for bus fare, skipped meals so her daughter could eat, and worn shoes long past their breaking point. Now she was expected to spend without consequence, while men in expensive suits leaned back, waiting for her to confirm their worst assumptions. The other women moved quickly. One headed straight for designer bags, another for sparkling jewelry. Their laughter echoed through the store, nervous but loud, trying to hide the weight of being watched. Maria, though, hesitated. Every step she took felt like she was walking on broken glass. She could feel the billionaire's eyes on her, cold and calculating, as if daring her to prove she was just another stereotype. When Maria reached for a simple pair of shoes for her daughter, she felt it. The tension in the room sharpened. A whisper among the onlookers, a smirk from one of the executives. It wasn't approval. It was mockery. They weren't testing her generosity. They were testing her worth, and then it got worse. A clerk, dressed in a pristine uniform, blocked her path. "Are you sure you can afford that?" he sneered, ignoring the black card in her hand. The cameras captured it all. The disbelief on his face, the way he glanced at the billionaire for validation. Maria froze, heat rushing to her cheeks. Even with unlimited wealth dangling from her fingertips, they still couldn't see her as anything but poor, powerless, and undeserving. The other women noticed the shift, but none spoke. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the billionaire's slight chuckle, low, amused, cruel. Maria tightened her grip on the card, every muscle in her body screaming at her to stay calm. She had been disrespected before, ignored before, but this was different. This was public. This was intentional. Still, she refused to back down. Slowly, she stepped past the clerk, her chin raised. The store suddenly felt like a stage. Every glance an accusation, every whisper a judgment. Yet beneath her fear burned something stronger, a quiet fire, the kind that years of hardship had forged. But what she chose next would not only silence the room, it would flip the entire test upside down. The room fell silent as Maria placed the card on the counter. All she wanted was a pair of shoes, nothing extravagant, nothing flashy. But the clerk didn't move. He folded his arms, staring at her like she didn't belong there. Then, with a smirk that cut deeper than words, he said loud enough for the cameras to hear, "People like you don't get to shop here." The words stung like a slap. Maria's throat tightened, but she refused to look away. Years of struggle, of being treated as invisible, had prepared her for this moment. But still, humiliation burned in her chest. Around her, the other women shifted uneasily. The billionaire, lounging with his hands clasped, didn't intervene. Instead, he watched, amused, waiting to see what she would do. Every second dragged. The clerk pushed the shoes aside. Try something simpler, he sneered. Laughter rippled through the room, not the laughter of joy, but of mockery. Maria's hands shook, her dignity hanging by a thread. For a moment, she thought about walking away, swallowing the pain like she always had. But then she looked down at the shoes, small, ordinary, but perfect for her daughter. And in that instant, something inside her hardened. She picked them up anyway. Her voice, steady but trembling with fire, cut through the noise. "These are what I want. And no one—" She glared at the clerk, at the billionaire, at every mocking eye. "No one can tell me otherwise." Gasps filled the room. The billionaire's smile faded. The cameras kept rolling. In a single act of defiance, Maria had shattered their test. She wasn't playing their game anymore. She was rewriting it. And what happened next? No one in that room could have predicted. Maria walked out of that store with nothing more than a single pair of shoes. But in truth, she carried much more. She carried the sting of humiliation, the burn of injustice, and the quiet strength of knowing she had stood her ground when the world tried to break her. To the billionaire, it was just another test, a game played at the expense of women like her. But for Maria, it was a moment that would never leave her. Those who watched the footage later argued about what mattered most. Was it the cruelty of the clerk who denied her dignity? The silence of the billionaire who allowed it to happen? Or was it the courage of a woman who refused to be silenced even when the odds were stacked against her? But beyond Maria's story lies a deeper truth. This wasn't just about one woman and a pair of shoes. It was about a system that continues to judge people not by their humanity, but by their color, their class, and their struggle. Her pain mirrors the experiences of millions whose choices are doubted, whose worth is questioned, and whose voices are ignored. Maria's act of defiance may not have changed the billionaire that day, but it changed something greater. It revealed the power of dignity in the face of discrimination. And it left a question that cannot be ignored. How many more Marias will have to endure humiliation before we finally choose to see people for who they are, not the stereotypes we expect them to be?